Development company North Lakes wants to turn this land on the southern side of the F3 Freeway Link Road into Lake Macquarie's largest suburb to be known as Cameron Park, with 1,700 housing lots. The council approved the plan in August, subject to water runoff conditions imposed by the state government. But the company says those conditions are too strict and is taking legal action.
We're like the meat in the sandwich. We've got to be the defendant in the court proceedings, pay the legal bills, and in reality the fight's with the state government departments who put the conditions on it.
The Department of Land and Water Conservation wants 30 to 40 dams installed throughout the suburb to manage runoff. But the company says if too much land is taken up, the project won't be viable, and lake ratepayers could end up footing the bill.
You could be looking at $30,000 or $40,000, which obviously we don't want to spend on something that we don't have a fight with the developers. It's other people, but because we're the consenting authority, we end up being the ones that are sued over the conditions of consent.
The matter will be heard in the Land and Environment Court next March. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
Since the mid-80s, 161 people in Newcastle have died of AIDS. But to mark the start of AIDS Awareness Week, the Newcastle Grammar Choir celebrated life. Education programs have helped cut infection rates. Still, 500 Australians each year contract the virus. Doctors warn we can't be complacent.
The groups most affected, namely the gay, bisexual, male groups, are still very aware of the risks and are taking a lot of precautions to prevent themselves being infected. But that's not true across the Australian population because they don't see themselves as being at risk.
In the Hunter, between 300 and 500 people are living with HIV/AIDS, but this year only one has died. This is due in large part to the number of people using combination drug therapy.
In general, one drug offers you about 6 months, two around 18 months or so, and three, it's unpredictable, but for some, many, many years, and for others, more like 3 to 5 years.
While Australia appears to have the HIV/AIDS problem at least at a manageable level, the third world is facing a crisis.
There are countries overseas, Africa in particular, and South America, where young people and sometimes tribes are still being wiped out.
Wednesday is World AIDS Day. Newcastle's 2-1 come-from-behind win over Canberra was just the tonic the club needed after the previous week's disappointing draw against Adelaide.
Certainly the last 15 minutes we could have put them away by even more, so it was a good performance, especially in the intensity department.
Sterry is particularly pleased with his strike force. On Friday night, Andy Harper scored the equaliser and John Bonavolia the match winner. However, Sterry only rates Bonavolia a 60-40 chance of playing the strikers after being felled by a late tackle in the dying minutes of the match against Canberra.
It wasn't a great tackle and probably deserved a red at the time, but he'd already sent one off, so with 10 minutes to go he just battled on. We already had our 3 subs on, but we'll just see how he comes up with physiotherapy this week.
The last time the Breakers met the Strikers at the end of last season, Newcastle took all 3 points, but it's a different Brisbane this season, undefeated with 6 wins and 3 draws. Sterry says his players shouldn't need the John Cosmina factor to get motivated.
It just happens to be about the same time of the year as Perth were undefeated last year, and we beat Perth 3-2 here at home, and it really springboarded us through to the rest of the season. So, a team coming here at this stage of the season undefeated, certainly if my blokes need any motivation, well, they really need some brain surgery.
It's business as usual at the St Vinny shop, but out the back it's a hive of energetic activity. Those volunteering their time include men from the Michael Talbot Hostel who are busy putting their muscles to work unloading trucks of donated goods. This year there's a shortage of children's toys.
Around our diocese we're finding that there is a shortage of toys, so if people can sort of help us with new or near new toys for the children, then we'd be most grateful.
BHP's closure has hit the region hard, the loss of 1,500 jobs placing increased demand on local charities.
We have noticed a huge increase this year, especially for food hampers, and people are phoning in for assistance now, getting in very early to put their names down for assistance for food.
St Vinny's will provide food hampers and Christmas gifts to families who would otherwise miss out this Christmas, and according to Ms Taylor, the joy is in the giving.
And that's why our theme for this year is the gift is in the giving, because people do get a lot of satisfaction if they know that they can give something to help the needy in the community. And, Newcastle's going through a really tough time.
Festive donations should be made before the week leading up to Christmas to allow them to be delivered in time for Santa's due date. Amanda Bolger, NBN News. The federal government's first wave of industrial reforms were designed to cut unemployment by concentrating on individual work contracts. Since the legislation was introduced, unemployment has fallen in the major cities, but has risen to as high as 13% in country areas.
Jobs just aren't being created near where the people are living, and unless the government wants everybody to move to Sydney, deregulation is not going to see that change.
A report released by the university shows the government's blanket approach to industrial relations reform doesn't cater to the specific needs of regional centres. The study suggests Peter Reith concentrate more on job creation through training programs than regulating the market.
There are tens of thousands of unemployed people in regions all around Australia who don't have a job that they can apply for.
The report also says country people have been left questioning the $5 billion cost of the Sydney Olympics when tens of thousands of public sector jobs are lost in regional communities. The prospect of further rises in interest rates is also bad news for the jobless living in the country, according to the report. It shows a slowing of the economy will only benefit those people living in the city.
Strong growth didn't spill out into the regions, so to now say we have to start to slow growth down because there's inflation in Sydney is going to cause real problems for those still waiting to get a job in regional areas.
The report will be discussed at a conference in Newcastle this week. Vanessa Spark, NBN News.
While questions remain about the Wildfires' finances and player numbers for next season, one thing is certain. Coach Danny Mayava has signed on for a second term in office.
There's a core group of players who really haven't thrown the towel in, and based on that, I've decided to back up again.
One Wildfire that is moving on, though, is Tim Rapp. The Australian under-21 rep packed his bags and headed home to Singleton today, where he'll spend Christmas with his family before pursuing a rugby career in Sydney. Captain Andrew James has also moved on, while some others are weighing up their options.
Guys who want to try and make a career out of football, other guys who are trying to move on, and the other guys, they're there for the fun of it, and that's pretty much what Newcastle's about.
But the coach is confident the Wildfires will have a competitive side.
There's a ex-Western Samoan international in Melbourne waiting to come up. I've spoken briefly of two current Western Samoan internationals who are playing in Auckland. They'd like to come across.
Colin Baldwin, NBN News. Up against the league leaders and old coach John Cosmina, the home side had plenty to play for. Both teams had their fair share of shots in the first half, but it wasn't until the dying minutes that Brad Witcherak and Andy Roberts found success. The Breakers veteran made sure Brisbane's bench was watching, and going into the second half, Cosmina didn't have much to smile about, especially after this attempt on goal. But next time the Breakers weren't so lucky. The replay revealed the ball bounced off Newcastle defender Glenn Moore. 1-1, but not for long, Andy Harper giving John Bonavolia an early Christmas present. Despite the best efforts of Harper, Smith and Bonavolia, that was how the scoreline stayed. The Breakers able to celebrate their first home win of the season, while Cosmina kept his dubious success rate in Newcastle intact.
The main street of the entrance was transformed today into a sea of spectators, all trying to catch a glimpse of the colourful procession in full swing.
We estimate that there's probably about 20,000 people converge on the entrance each year. The parade is definitely a highlight of it.
Having made its way from Long Jetty, the parade marched, danced and even played its way to Memorial Park, where the festivities continued. And the day brought out all kinds of enthusiasts to share in the fun.
We've got Humphrey Bear, we've got the Chartbusters on tonight, we've got a Christmas show, we've got Santa Claus coming.
And the list doesn't stop there. Some familiar faces also made an appearance. But one day seems not enough for the celebrations, so the fun will continue tomorrow, when the new Queen of the Mardi Gras will be announced. Adam Harper, NBN News.
Spray owners from all parts of the lake gathered for their annual regatta at Belmont to remember Joshua Slocum, who made history over a century ago by sailing his sloop, the Spray, around the world. The original hull design is still popular with yachties of today, like Phil Bromley, who named his Spray after its designer.
You'll probably find that there'll be drinks and food being consumed while we're sailing, which can only happen on a Spray rather than they don't sort of lean over.
Racing Spray style in a light southeasterly, and Galatea broke the start, almost taking the buoy with her. Barry Hunt aboard Blue Chip timed his run to the line beautifully, with Rosie J half a boat length behind, and Anne and David Mann's 52-foot Blue Master in third. A 3-reach course to Cole Point and back spread the fleet, Blue Chip eventually finishing first. But it seems the only result these yachties are keen to achieve is a bit of fun. Paul Lobb, NBN News. Hamilton Wickham were first out in the middle and set a cracking pace, with Rhys Soper in the dark helmet teaming up with fellow opener Jason Bartlett. As Soper went on to score 100, Bartlett was caught out on the boundary. The chase was too much for Wallsend, who conceded the trophy by almost 100 runs. Meantime, round 8 of the Hog's Breath Longboard Legends Tour was held at South Bar Beach today in a solid 1 metre swell. Newcastle's Jai Byrne won the pro event. The Central Coast's Danny Bond won the over 40s. When grain dust inside a silo exploded at Cairns processing plant early yesterday, 3 workers were seriously burnt. They remain in Sydney hospitals fighting for survival, while a firefighter recovers in Newcastle's Mater Hospital. Today, work resumed in parts of the plant, except in the crushing unit where the explosion occurred. Lessons learnt yesterday will force changes.
We will certainly reassess our operational procedures. The actual removing of the cover created an explosion, and if the bin had been doused or flooded, that would have been avoided, as I'm informed.
New concerns surfaced today with rising temperatures in an adjacent silo of canola grain. Firefighters now plan to empty that silo in a bid to reduce the threat of a further flare-up. Families of the injured workers are by their sides tonight in Sydney. The incident has been a shock to the entire community.
There's some memories there that they've got to deal with, and they need a lot of support, and a lot of families and friends will be there for them. It's not going to be easy.
Paul Lobb, NBN News. Brian McGuigan announced today that the Lower Hunter pipeline will be expanded to irrigate 400 properties before it's fully operational early next year. But that's not all. 150 wine growers in the Broke-Fordwich area have also spent $200,000 developing a plan to draw 2,500 megalitres from the Hunter River in a new irrigation system.
We're very hopeful that this project will get up underway certainly in the next 6 months and give them permanent water supply sometime late next year.
150 jobs should be created by the project, but the Minister for Hunter Development says employment isn't the only benefit.
Well, jobs are the big thing, but of course it does give a certainty of quality and supply into the premium market for wine.
And with 2 pipelines working in tandem to drought-proof the Hunter Valley, the winemaking industry should continue to grow.
Probably looking in conservative terms about 600 extra jobs within the next 2 years.
From the production of alcohol to its responsible consumption, the Maitland Liquor Accord was launched today. A key plank, no service for intoxicated people, and the police are looking forward to more self-regulation by licensees.
It reduces the problems within the community for antisocial behaviour and domestic violence perhaps, and certainly road trauma. And as far as the police are concerned, it hopefully will reduce our workload.
David McElwain, NBN News.
Titles in Darwin this year, Laura was 50. During this time, he has demonstrated immense ability.
And Tammy Bruce, we did get a go on that. I'm not executive board.
If the video has anything to do with it, people everywhere will soon be thinking Lake Macquarie. Put together by council and various local groups, the NBN produced package attempts to attract people for Olympic training and tourism.
We do have to look at alternative ways of employing people. We do have a beautiful natural resource here, I guess, and if we can promote it to bring people here, that's going to create jobs, opportunities for people, and of course it promotes Lake Macquarie.
Sailing is the main focus, with the lake getting the thumbs up from top yachtsmen like Ian Murray. The video will be sent to tourism bodies and yacht clubs across the globe and has even been snapped up by a British TV channel.
Which means it'll go to 4.5 million homes, with the opportunity also of going to the Discovery Channel in the Strait, which means an extra 40 million homes, which is fantastic.
Colin Baldwin, NBN News. While they were hard at training last night, the Breakers youth are already in good shape. After losing the first 3 games of the season, the side has bounced back to score points in 6 of the last 7.
Our last month or so shows that we've turned the trend as far as winning games, but again there's always improvement in every game we play.
Equal 5th on the 17-team scoreboard, the Breakers will face their toughest test this season tomorrow night when they take on Parramatta. After 9 games, the league leaders are unbeaten, only conceding 4 goals.
Obviously you've got to give them the respect they deserve. They've done well. You just got to look at their for and against record and the amount of wins they've got. But again, we've got to set our own benchmark, and as far as approaching every game on its merits.
A win would see the youth team a step closer to its eventual aim of making the semi-finals. Colin Baldwin, NBN News.
The Water Board received the good news at today's quarterly Community Consultative Forum. The auditor found Hunter Water achieved high or full compliance for the majority of the operating licence requirements and achieved a large percentage of its environmental management plan.
In summary, I would say that it's probably the best year we've had since we corporatised in 91, 92. We basically complied fully and fairly comfortably with every parameter.
Every year the government appoints an independent auditor to gauge just how well corporatised water boards are performing.
And they're basically looking to ensure that we comply with the standards that are set for things like water quality, level of performance of our sewage system.
But while it's a well-deserved pat on the back for the Water Board, it's also good news for consumers.
We're continuing to sort of drive our operating costs down, so we're actually doing the right thing by the consumer, both in a cost sense, while at the same time either maintaining or in a lot of cases improving standards.
Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.